All right, 31st day of March 2023, the last day of March. The day is moving so quick. You're even wondering, like, I mean, the year just began the other time, and already here we are. The first quarter is done, and now we are on 31st of March, of course, being the last day of March. Here we are back on the overall show. If you are joining us here for the first time, this is the first live session we are doing right here on the overall show. But for those joining us on the other side of Camp Voices, this is how we do things all the time. My name is Okoto Pondo. I'll be hosting this amazing session here once a week, probably every Friday, what we call the story night. Yeah, story night. Yes, story night every Friday, just to get to see what is happening on the ground and the different experiences that people are having on different things. So tonight we are here with my good brother Omukoko Okoth. He'll be telling us shortly where he's joining us and, of course, where he is, how he's feeling wherever he is. Brother, how are you doing?
Yeah, thank you very much, Brother Opondo, for having me tonight. I am doing well. Everything seems to be going well.
Unatujoin ukiwa wapi leo bana?
Leo nawajoin kutoka Ohio.
Ohio.
Eh,
Hey, okay. Ohio ni wapi?
Ohio it's a state in the United States. Yeah, so northeast.
Northeast.
Yes.
Sisi tunajua northeastern.
Sasa hiyo the northeastern ya huku US.
Oh, ndio northeastern ya US.
Kabisa.
Sasa na hiyo iko fiti. So thanks so much kwanza even for joining us here for this great discussion, because I think this is very important. We want to encourage most of these conversations here zikifanyika hapo hivi all the time. We just get to understand and to talk about issues that affect, but most important, those experiences zenye tunapitia sisi kama wananchi wadogo na pia kama wananchi wengine. So we began this storytelling session every Friday, itakuwa na kama hapa hivi. I hope after nimehosti leo, next time you can even help me host one, sindio?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be very happy to.
Yeah, sawa. Let's see. Let me see those who are joining us right now. In case you're joining us from wherever you are, let me know. Just tell us the state or the county or the province or the district. Inategemea ni country gani, because kila country wako na system yao. Kina Omukoko penye wako watasema the state, sisi penye tuko hapo hivi tunasema county. Wewe inategemea penye huko, tuambie unatujoin ukiwa wapi. Let me know. Brother Steven.
Yes, Brother Pondo.
Hey bana, ulitoka Kenya lini? Because unajua watu, kuna mtu tukisikia akiongea hivi tunajua ni mtu wa nyumbani kabisa huko.
Mimi nimetoka Kenya just recently, ndo nimerudi shuleni. I think I came back. Nimekuwa nyumbani, nimekuwa Kenya January. So nimetoka early February ndo nikakuja.
Okay.
Yes.
Na so saizi you are a student that side. For how long have you been there as a student?
Yeah, I'm now aging on concluding my second year as a student in the United States. Sasa nimekuwa hapa kwa muda kiasi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sasa uko karibu kuanza kurudi huko kutusaidia kutafuta kazi?
Mimi najiandaa sasa, namaliza mbio nirudi Kenya. Tuchape kazi.
Wewe sasa huko ukishaenda utafute tu kazi bwana. Sisi huko Kenya tuna kazi.
Yeah, wewe unasema mali hakuna kazi unaenda unatengeneza. Lakini Kenya opportunities ziko. Kazi tu za kupewa ndio kuna.
Kama gani unasema? Kazi ziko Kenya kama gani bwana?
Unaona shida ni watu kukosa capital, lakini when you think of e-commerce in Kenya ina grow sana. Watu kuuza vitu online, nimeona ni kitu iko na potential kubwa sana kwa Kenya. Kwa sababu Kenya inaendelea kudevelop. In the next few years Kenya itakuwa powerhouse.
Okay. Amazing. Hiyo ni fiti sana. Sasa hizi bado situation ya COVID huko iko aje? Unajua US ndio zile countries zenye huko US huko ndio penye country stories zilikuwa mingi sana, especially unakumbuka the way COVID was being handled. Alafu tukasikia stories za Italy, tukasikia stories za Spain. US hizi kukoaje? Bado hizi restrictions ziko tu?
Sasa hii kumetulia, restrictions si mingi. I mean shuleni restrictions will last a little bit longer than the rest of the country. Sababu kwa mashule ni kama shule ziko na policies zao kuhusu COVID and stuff. Lakini kwa saa hii ni kama kila mtu amemove on. Saa hii ukipatikana na mask watu wanashangaa kidogo. Of course kwa shule watu wajali vile, lakini huko nje watu wakikuona na mask wanakuangalia, mbona unavaa mask mwenzetu?
Wanaona kama umekataa ku move on.
Wanaona kama umekataa ku move on.
Oh, okay. Okay. That is interesting because I think bado Kenya, yes, kuna those instances bado naona watu wanavaa mask,
Mhm.
especially kwenye demonstration. Mask ni muhimu sana kusaidia kuzuia moshi ya tear gas.
Ah.
Uh, but pia bado kuna tu wale watu wenye by the way bado wanavaa tu mask because ukiwauliza ukweli
Mhm.
atakwambia tu wanavaa mask as a
Yeah.
result of because of COVID.
Mhm.
Yeah, so mask as a result of because bado naivaa for COVID na nini, unajua kila mtu akona maisha yake. But
Ni kweli.
anyway, here we are right now. Ready for this great conversation. Omukoko. Unajua one reason that's why nimekuleta hapa hivi because of your experience. I just want you to share with us your experience.
Yeah.
Kama wale the first cases zile za COVID. Unajua when COVID was COVID, achana na saizi.
Ni
When
kweli.
COVID was COVID, before tuanze kujua mambo ya vaccination. Before hata
Yeah.
mambo ya mamask yenyewe hata bado hata ishike vizuri. Before hata mambo ya
Mhm.
sijui mama COVID certificate, sijui kutibiwa nini. How was it?
Mhm.
What exactly happened to you? You experienced with this?
Yeah, sasa mimi nilikuwa shuleni. I was in school, the school called Eglon College in Switzerland.
Yeah, yeah.
So tulikuwa shuleni, COVID ikakuja imeshika and everyone was not sure of what to do. Schools
Mhm,
zilikuwa zinashangaa sasa tufanye nini. And then ukatokea trend yenye kila shule inafunga. And
mhm,
that is how our school also ended up being closed. Na
mhm,
tukaambiwa twende nyumbani.
mhm.
So I traveled back to Kenya. Nikakuja Kenya, nimepita airport. Airport ulikuwa kila mtu amekushikia hiyo thermometer gun, wanapima temperature.
So GK.
Yeah, JKIA. But pia ilifika
Okay.
mahali waka advance. So kulikuwa na hizo zina screen kutumia lasers or something or some cameras.
Mhm,
Unasimama hapo hivyo wana scan, wanaona temperature. Kiwa sawa unapita. And so yeah, nikapita, everything was okay. Nikaenda nyumbani and I was home for about 7 days. Hapo ndo nikaanza kusikia a little bit sick. Na nikashuku nilikuwa na malaria because I've had malaria before. Na
mhm.
najua venye huwa na feel nikiwa na malaria. So nimeenda hospitali. Nienda hospitali, sitasema the hospital because of the business implications za kutaja specific hospitals.
Mhm,
Lakini nikaenda hospitali nikapimwa malaria and turns out nilikuwa positive na malaria.
mhm,
But sasa madaktari wakaniuliza kama nimetravel anytime in the last few days.
mhm.
Na nikasema nimetravel. And then all of a sudden kila mtu akaruka mbali. All doctors hii walikuwa 3 meters away, kila mtu. And then they started, walikuwa wamepanic. That is the first case wameona ya COVID. They just don't know much about the disease. Na watu
Mhm.
pia hawajui kuihusu. Na daktari alikuwa amenipima akakuwa very scared because yeye ndiye amenipima malaria. And it's not that nimekuwa confirmed niko na COVID, just the fact that nimetravel. And so that being the case, hapo sasa waka make calls to the Ministry of Health because at that time any efforts za kudeal na COVID zilikuwa centralized. Ndio gava ilikuwa inajaribu kufigure out what to do. And Ministry of Health waka recommend nipelekwe Mbagathi all the way from Bungoma.
Mhm.
Kaingizwa ambulance mbio mbio au majamaa wamevaa aprons wamefunika
That
kila
is
mahali.
from Kakamega.
So nilikuwa nimeenda hospitali iko Bungoma.
Oh, Bungoma.
Yes, so from Bungoma.
Okay.
Nilikuwa nimetravel all the way from Kakamega to Bungoma. Sababu kuna hospitali hapo, we felt that it was much better at handling just kupimwa na kujua kama kila kitu kilikuwa sawa. Nilikuwa
Mhm,
nimetravel na my brother and my dad, so tulikuwa bundled up, tukaweka kwa ambulance wote pamoja, tukapelekwa mpaka Mbagathi.
mhm,
And in about 6 hours tulikuwa tumetoka Bungoma mpaka Nairobi.
mhm.
Yeah, so that's how I got to Mbagathi. So kufika Mbagathi, my dad and my brother wakaambiwa warudi. So they went back with the ambulance. Na wakasema because mimi nimetravel out of the country, they will retain me.
Mhm.
Sasa hapo hivyo nimefika sina chochote bana. Nimebeba simu of course, sina charger, sijabeba. Ni nguo zile nilikuwa nimevaa nikienda nazo kwa hospitali. And so tukaweka kwa certain section hapo Mbagathi ya watu wanangoja results. So unapimwa, unaweka kwa hiyo section, alafu unangoja results. Kama ziko negative unatumwa home. Kama ziko positive wewe unakaa Mbagathi. So tukiwa hapo simu yangu ni kama inaisha moto. Unajaribu kuomba mtu charger hawezi kupea juu hajui kama ni wewe ndio uko na COVID. Sasa tumekaa hapo hivyo and we are waiting for the results. 24 hours later, results nakuja, naambiwa I'm positive of COVID. So ukiwa tested positive, unatolewa hiyo section, unapelekwa sasa section ya ndani. So we got 2 sections. Unapelekwa the other section, hapo sasa ndio unakaa until you recover. Tukiwa huko ndani, you are supposed to, unakuwa tested every 7 days. Na ukiwa tested, then results zikuja negative, unakuwa tested another time after 24 hours. and then if the results are still negative, unaruhusiwa kwenda nyumbani. And so niko hapo, the first 7 days nakuja nakuwa tested, I was still positive. The next 7 days tena positive. The next 7 days napata my first negative. This is the third week. Napata my first negative, I'm supposed to test again 24 hours later. Test 24 hours later tena bado niko positive. So I stay there for another 7 days. Wanakuja wana test bado niko positive, and kulikuwa na jamaa hapo mwenye alitaka sasa kutransfer kutoka Mbagathi because alifeel ni kama asaidiki sana. And so they went to Kenyatta National Hospital, and I had a chance, nikasema pia mimi naweza ingia kwa hiyo gari tuende pamoja. And so we went to Kenyatta National Hospital, tukakaa huko, and after 7 days, that is when then I was tested. Nikakuwa negative, na nikamalizana na siku zangu about 36 days of ailing COVID. But tukiwa Mbagathi kwenyewe, the experience ilikuwa rough. First of all, tulikuwa kwa some sort of hallway. Ilikuwa building ambayo haijamalizwa. And I think that facility was supposed to be a maternity, lakini ilikuwa haijaisha. So the government just used it because I think that is one of the few resources yenye walikuwa nazo at the time. So hapo hivyo ni mko kwa room, but the rooms are not necessarily private ama kitu kama hiyo. They are kuna walls, yes, but walls zinaenda halfway. So you can always see the next room and the other room. Na inakaa hallway hivyo. And we were there, and so every day watu wanakuja, we made friends. I remember I made a friend mwenye alikuwa na travel kutoka Dubai kwenda Comoros. Na alikuwa na wakati mgumu sana yeye, because yeye alikuwa airport, alikuwa anafaa ku transit to the next flight kwenda Comoros, alikuwa layover Kenya, and then wanapata temperature yake iko juu kidogo, amerushwa mpaka Mbagathi. And that is how he spent a whole month.
Alikuwa Mkenya?
No, hakuwa Mkenya, haongei Kiswahili, haongei English, anaongea tu lugha yenye it takes a lot of patience kuelewa, kwa sababu inakaa bit of Swahili mixed with French somehow, but si French na si Swahili.
Ni mtu wa Comoros?
Yeah, mtu wa Comoros.
Okay.
So it took a lot of patience kumuelewa na kujaribu sasa kuconnect, kuambia sama daktari anajaribu kusema hivi. But his experience aside, mimi sasa nikiwa huko back home, kulikuwa na a lot of tension. First of all, my family walikuwa wameambiwa kwamba you cannot leave the home, so ilibidi wamekaa nyumbani. Gava ilikuwa imepledge kwamba itasaidia watu wamepata COVID, but there's only so much they did. So home familia wamekaa wote pamoja, they couldn't move out because pia neighbors walikuwa, unajua hiyo time ulikuwa unasikia vifo za COVID kila mahali, so the neighbors walikuwa na stigmatization mingi sana. And funny enough, this extended to even my extended family. I remember my grandma akikuwa na very hard time from the neighbors as well. And all the theories came up. At that time, there was a funeral in the village, which I did not attend. But everyone who attended the funeral alikuwa ameambiwa kwamba because you attended this funeral, this guy was here na alisalamia kila mtu. And it almost seemed as though I was making deliberate effort to spread COVID. Yeah, so all these people were scared for their lives, and they were pointing fingers towards my family, wanashangaa venye tumethreaten maisha yao. But so seeing that happening and just how much my family was going through, I decided to make a video just kukumbusha watu, yes, COVID ni ugonjwa na yes, it has different impacts on different people, but it's not as bad as people in the media had made it seem. Ilikuwa inakaa ni kama COVID ni death sentence. But unfortunately, time natengeneza hiyo video, there was someone who was coughing in the background. Alikuwa na cough sana, and so ikakuwa na hiyo sort of watu wanashangaa kama unasema COVID si serious vile, mbona mtu
ana cough nini?
Huyo ana cough kwa background, but maybe alikuwa tuna another condition, because hata alipona mbele yangu na sisi alikuwa ameacha kukohoa, yeye alipona akaenda home. But yes, so I made a video, and actually when we post your video Twitter, and there seemed to be a good feedback, and somehow I ended up getting connected to the media houses and just sharing my COVID story. On YouTube, the video ilipata about almost 1,000 views within a short time. But I was compelled to pull it down because at that time the government was very careful with COVID communication.
Especially sharing anything about COVID ni kama ilikuwa tabu.
Absolutely. Yeah. Na pia walikuwa wanataka watu wenye wanaita experts waongee, and so haikuwa, niliona to that end kama government haikuwa very receptive to the idea of mtu kushare experiences zake. So I pulled it down, but the effect was already out there. Nilikuwa naona venye watu wana respond, the way people were engaging with the conversations I was having. And so I thought, to me, that was a good thing because it helped ease the stigma yenye watu walikuwa nayo. And I used any opportunity nilipata na media houses just to share my experiences ndo watu wajue. But aside from that, hapo ndani mkiwa hospitali, you're not allowed to leave. Hamwezi leave the building, na mkitoka building mnakuwa threatened kwamba you'll be taken to police as soon as you recover because you're endangering other people's lives. So for whatever number of days you will stay there, hautaona jua. And it was particularly rough for me because mimi niliingia, I didn't have many of the symptoms. Hata sikumbuki nikiwa na those symptoms. And if any, they were very mild. So huko ndani, people come, wananipata hapo hivyo, I show them around, nawaelezea venye vitu zinawaka hapa Mbagathi. So nikakuwa ni kama mimi ndio mzee hapo hivyo, wa kuguide watu, wanakuja and they leave. Na unajua tulikuwa tumeambiwa the older people ndo wanakuwa more affected by COVID. But some older people walikuwa wanakuja, hata wanacheza rumba kwa simu, wana dance kidogo, and then they leave. Na mimi niko hapo hivyo bado na nashangaa, why is it that nime overstay hapa hivi, sina symptoms, older people are coming and leaving, another generation of older people are coming and leaving. But that was what it was. Now, aside from that, hapo ndani we formed a very strong community. Tulikuwa tuna support each other. I remember we used to have prayers. Watu wanakuja wanagather, we sing a song, and then we pray together. And it's one of those few times zenye nimeona how powerful community can be. Because at this time, connections na links na watu ziko very minimal, mko confined hapo ndani. And I thought that really helped. Hiyo time unaona ni kama umefeel overstay, unafeel ni kama what kind of life is this? Hapo ndo unajua kwamba this freedom zenye tuko nazo tufai ku take for granted. Because hata kama unataka, you cannot leave this facility. You're confined to a very small building hapo. And that is where you will be for God knows how long until you recover, na hujui uta recover lini. Na mimi nilikuwa scared. I was scared because mimi nilikuwa sirikavi, but I still tested positive. So nikiuliza madaktari, because sometimes madaktari walikuwa wanakuja wanatembea, wamevaa mask up, fully masked up, wanatembea through Mbagathi. And hats out to them because watu walikuwa scared, but the fact that they were able to brave all that na kuja kusaidia patients was very helpful. So madaktari wananiambia inaweza kuwa possibility kwamba wewe ni carrier. And what this meant ni kwamba hauonyeshi sign, but you just have the virus. Sasa nikashangaa, if this is the case, does that mean that sasa nitakuwa hivi forever? Ni kama unajua the people who live with certain diseases, they don't affect them, but they always have them. So nikasema, will I be confined here for the rest of my life? Because kama sasa siponi COVID, the symptoms are always there, and I'm always positive of COVID. Will I be able to regain my freedom na kwenda kuishi na watu? But ultimately, thankfully, nilienda up nikatest negative, and I was released. But it was quite an experience. It was quite an experience.
Let me ask you something bana. Mlikuwa mnakula aje mkiwa Mbagathi? Because I remember those times kulikuwa na ile issue ya hata watu wanaleta chakula wenyewe, wanaleta sijui chakula wanawarushia kwa dirisha.
Yeah.
Were these stories real ama ilikuwa tu vituko tu?
Yeah, so first of all, kuna mlango. Hiyo mlango inafungwa from outside. So you will never leave the facility. Na anytime imefunguliwa, kama you get a chance to leave, of course, nimekwambia kuna hiyo threat kwamba unaweza shtakiwa. You are threatening people's lives. The way the doctors and the practitioners who walikuwa na serve chakula, they could come to the window, and then wewe unafungua dirisha, and then wanatumia tray kupitishia chakula. Wanapitishia chakula. But it also depends on nani anadeliver chakula hiyo siku. In some cases, mtu alikuwa anakuja, anafungua the main door, anaweka chakula hapo chini, and then sasa nyinyi mnaenda mnachukua chakula. Sometimes chakula ilikuwa baridi, nakuja na kaa imekawia sana, ndio nakuja inawafikia.
Na watu walikuwa wanaletea chakula walikuwa navaaje?
They were covered. Hata ungejua nani anatuletea chakula.
Wow.
Ungejua ni nani because walikuwa
na nyinyi wenyewe kwa wenyewe hapo ndani mlikuwa
so hapo kwa wenyewe hapo ndo sasa issue nyingine ilitokea. Because tulikuwa sisi wote na COVID, tulikuwa tunaambiwa it's okay, lakini tulikuwa tunakuwa warned kwamba kuna chance ya reinfection. So mpaka kulikuwa na stigmatization ndani ya facility yenyewe. Sasa kuna mtu anataka hata kuna people they don't want, watu wataki wasongee, unaona? Watu wataki wasongee because if you use the items wanaona ni kama unaweza wa reinfect. Hata kama wamepona you can still make them contract COVID again. So kwa kuwa na hiyo space ya kutaka watu wanataka personal spacing, personal distance. But haikuwa kila mtu. Some people kuna watu walikuwa wamekubali, of course hii ni COVID, but we can still interact with people, we can still share with people. But sasa hapo ndani we were not necessarily, we were required to have masks, especially tukimove from our bed. Ukiwa kwa kitanda yako ndo unaweza toa mask. As soon as you get down from your bed, unaenda kutumia washroom ama unaenda kuchukua chakula, you have to be masked up. Ama time madaktari wanakuja kuongelesha, you have to have your masks up. Yeah.
That is interesting, Steve, because unajua maybe someone ulikuwa unaenda hapo ukidhani sana unaenda kupata usaidizi only for it again kutanda ingekuwa jela nyingine. Hebu niambie, though unajua ina sound a bit personal, mko mnaoga?
Of course, tulikuwa tunaoga, everything was going on as usual. The only problem ni yes, unaoga, unakuja unalala kwa kitanda all the time.
Wow, for 36
and some
days.
people, some of them, watu wengine walikuwa foreign nationals. These people just don't have any contact person in the country. Hawajui cha kufanya nini, and worse still, kama huongei Kiswahili na huongei English, unless you get a friend mwenye ako very patient kujaribu kuelewa. That's what I'm telling you about this friend of mine mwenye alikuwa Comoros, mwenye anatoka Comoros. Haelewi kitu chochote na hata hakuwa na smartphone. Alikuwa na smartphone yenye alikuwa ametumwa kununua Dubai, so alikuwa ameogopa kuitumia, and if anything hana sim card, hana nini. So nilikuwa najaribu kutumia, hata nilikuwa na fetch documents zake zote, tunajaribu ku extract number tuone kama huyo mtu ako accessible WhatsApp, make a call ndo aweze kuongea apate usaidizi. I was very worried for him. But thankfully alikuja akapona, but everything else was normal. Tunaoga, tunakula, yeah.
Perfect. I see quite a number of people joining us saizi hapa hivi, akina naona my friend Francisca, Sylvia, Joe, Robert Mutunga. Kuna jamaa hivi anasema starehe to the world, lyric city. Alafu kuna jamaa hivi anaitwa Don Troy. Sijui kama anaweza, kama kuna mtu anataka link, maybe naweza tu kutumia, naweza share na wewe link hapa hivi direct kwa YouTube. You just maybe dial in uniambie tu your experience time ya COVID. Wewe ulisikia COVID inafanya watu aje? Kama una watch sasa hivi and maybe you'd like, hebu andika tu comment hapa hivi kwa YouTube, alafu if possible unaweza tu drop the comment there, ama kama unataka ku dial in naweza tu kupatia link, you join, you share your maybe share your opinion, alafu immediately tena utoke tu, because leo tuko hapa hivi na Omukoko mwenyewe, the discussion ni sisi na yeye. Steve, do you feel to some point all this was happening because watu wako wanajua hii ni nini ama?
Yeah, certainly. Unaona sasa hii COVID imechange. Kwani wewe unafikiria COVID imevanish tu out of nowhere? I don't think kuna disease yenye ina vanish tu hivyo. Of course people have now been vaccinated, and pia watu wengi wamecontract COVID whether wamejua ama hawajajua, and maybe that helps boost the immunity and stuff. But at that time watu hawakujua. The only news that people knew ilikuwa kwamba people are dying in hundreds in Italy. Unasikia leo kama sisi tuna count how many infections, au wana count how many deaths, and so people were so scared. Na pia the way the media was reporting, media ilikuwa ina report ni kama these people are just dying of COVID peke yake. Like media ilikuwa inafanya ikae ni kama this year hakukufaa kuwa na mtu yote anakufa.
Mwenye ujura alifaa kukufa. COVID imetokea sasa imeamua tu kuua watu.
Yeah, so ni kama media ilikuwa ina count the number of people who died during COVID and not the number of people who are dying because of COVID. Na pia kama uko na COVID and other complications, the media was sidelining that. Ilikuwa ina consider the fact that yes, you had COVID, you died, and so people were so scared, and that is understandable. The World Health Organization was very inconsistent in its messaging. Mwanzo ilikuwa imekataa ku communicate kwamba COVID ni pandemic, kisha ikaanza kusema why are people discriminating Chinese nationals na watu wanaenda China. So kulikuwa na hizo restrictions. First of all, kulikuwa na restrictions za travel. Some countries walikuwa wanajaribu ku restrict travels, but then World Health Organization ina hold another stance. But it's also understandable. Now, the World Health Organization pia walikuwa hawajaona disease kama hii, so they didn't know what to do. And so that brought a lot of confusion among people. Mtu hajui sasa nani anamwambia kitu kweli. You expect your government to tell you what's right, but government pia haijui, na media nao wanataka headlines. So it's understandable why people are reacting that way.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Pia Omukoko, labda tukiendelea na story, let me just remind everyone mwenye na watch, you have an opportunity maybe to pose a question to Omukoko hapa hivi, or even just to share a comment, to share with us maybe what happened in ya COVID in 2020. To be specific, 2020 and I think 2021. 2022 vitu zikatulia kidogo, watu wameanza kulegeza kamba, kuna serikali, hata officials wa serikali wenyewe wakaanza kulegeza kamba. But if you are Kenyan, definitely right now you know this common phrase here, if you handle yourself, there was this phrase that ilikuwa inatumika sana, jamaa alikuwa anaitwa Mutahi Kagwe. Yeah, you know this guy, yani hadi ungeuliza tu watoto, yani alikuwa anajulikana hata kuliko president sasa, because the briefing was every day. Omukoko, mimi nakumbuka days za kwanza saa 9 haingenipata nje ya nyumba. 3 on the dot we were coming on our screens to see how many more cases, what is happening. Hizo days hatakuwa na mambo ya solution, ilikuwa ni how many more cases, how many more cases, na ni county gani na nini imefanyika. And then I remember now going to the COVID meter, kulikuwa na ile ilikuwa pale online and you could follow the cases in Italy every day. Na unajua tukaanza kuambiwa hapa hivi, tukiendelea kucheza hivi tutakuwa tunaenda tu kwa streets, tunapata watu wanaanguka tu, watu wanakufa tu ovyo ovyo, you know, the scare. And I remember even in one of the WhatsApp groups nilikuwa ndani, we even had to change tactic because tulikuwa na relative very young people pale hivyo kwa platform, and people believed kabisa it was the end times. Actually remember one time one preacher alikuwa anasema ni siku za mwisho, and the kids were really scared. Watu walikuwa wanasema sasa, yani dunia inaisha tu hivi, hata sijamaliza shule, dunia inaisha tu hivi, hata I was planning to become the best lawyer in the world, dunia inaisha. You know, people were really scared. Omukoko, do you think it was also because hatujaijua ku handle this kind of things, ama yani ni kama ijawahi tokea, ama what was happening?
Yeah, I mean the last time kumekuwa na pandemic of that nature yenye iko so contagious, ilikuwa maybe in the 20s, zamani sana. Ilikuwa naambiwa kuhusu the Spanish flu and stuff.
Yes, in 1800s,
so, yeah, so
19 something, yeah.
Yeah, in the early 19, in the early 20th century. But sasa, but there's something I forgot to mention pia. I think umenikumbusha kwamba the way the police handled this situation. Polisi walikuwa wameambiwa they have to make sure watu wako nyumbani at a given time. So hii story na curfew. And so the police were very rough. Mimi sijaelewa mbona mapolisi kwa hivi. Because I remember we lost a relative and my grandma alikuwa ameenda hiyo matanga. And so ilikuwa usiku and she was walking back home. And then wanakutana na mapolisi, and then mapolisi they just unleash violence on my grandma, wanampiga mguu, and this is a very old woman, mpaka saa hii anaumia mguu na kutembea imekuwa ngumu because of the COVID situation. And of course you can't do anything, you can't press charges. Hukuona mtu, ni usiku, these people light the flashlight on you, wanakuja wanapiga, and they wanapiga anyone and everyone. So hiyo ndo kitu moja pia experience yenye niliona was not the best in the manner in which the police handled the situation. And I think that is one area of improvement. Na area moja kama COVID, tungetake such a strategy of involving the people and making them own the decisions that they are making in their country. Ungekuwa na greater compliance. Lakini hapa ni kama gava inatoka tu from nowhere. Now from this day henceforth, mtafanya hivi. Curfew ni sahi. And these are people's lives. You're not just dealing with some robots ama kitu yote. People have different agencies, different emergencies zenye wanafaa ku address. Na ndio hiyo sasa. But back to your question venye umesema, I think it's largely because just no one knew what was happening. Hakuna mtu alijua COVID inaenda wapi. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Now na Francisca nauliza how was life after Bagati back home. Vile vile pia tuko na Caroline Aoko. Caroline Aoko anasema my kuzo and hazi wake walipata and she was so depressed sababu ya kutengwa na jamii. And actually now I want us to get to that point. Hiyo part ya kutengwa and generally just how it makes everyone feel. And for everyone who is watching right now, share with us your experience. Hiyo time ya COVID mambo ilikuangaje? Especially hizo kama ulikuwa na neighbor ama relative mwenye alipata COVID, or even just generally what information when you first heard of COVID and the way government ilikuwa ina handle the authorities, wewe ulikuwa na dunia inaelekea wapi? Because Omukoko to me the point fulani kwa najiambia it is bad because government in fact even at whatever hizo zingine itwaje that the government was issuing all the time, unaamka tu siku moja tu, sisi tunaongoja hata kudhania maybe shule zitafunguliwa lini, tunaongoja hata kusikia sijui nitafanyika lini, unasikia tu tena sasa watu waanze kuingia kwa nyumba saa moja jioni. Hiyo ndio siku nikajua ni kubaya. Tuanze kuingia kwa nyumba saa moja jioni, Wakenya saa moja jioni sasa wengine wanaanza kazi bana. Pole pole kasonga, sijui tunaingia kwa nyumba saa moja jioni, but sasa kutoka pia kuna time specific ya kutoka. Hii kitu ikaanza kusonga sasa, kuingia kwa nyumba ni saa 5 usiku na kuamka ni 4am. Sasa ni kama ilikuwa inaelekeza kushikana. I think ilibaki tu kidogo. Nduru hata sema kuingia ni saa 6 usiku, kuamka ni saa 6 na dakika moja. Because it was crazy. So for
Yeah,
anyone who is watching right now, what we're asking, what was your experience during those times? And hii mambo ya kutengwa, je, ni ukweli ama uongo? That's exactly what I want to ask Omukoko. If you are watching right now, let me know kama unataka nikutumie link ya kuingia kwa platform yetu so that you are just able to ask a question or just to share a comment. Andika hapo kwa comment section, nitaiona tu straight away. I'll send the link hapa tu, you dial in, say whatever you want to say, alafu tena to excuse to endelea na discussion. Also just remind you, this program will be coming to you every week. We are yet to decide whether it is a Friday or a Thursday, but it will be coming to you every week. People coming to share their stories. There's a story coming up of a very amazing woman, Omukoko, certain lady born in a family of about 10, 11, 12 people, lost all her arms in a fire accident, but right now she has written two amazing books.
Oh, wow.
Tutakuwa na hapa hivi. Actually her name is Caro, hata namuona hapo hapo kwa panel alisema lazima tune in leo asikie story yako pia. Back to Omukoko.
That's impressive. Yeah, so in terms of life after COVID, mwanzo kulikuwa na hiyo travel restrictions. So hungetoka Nairobi na hungeenda Nairobi. So na hapo mapolisi wamepanga laini. Ukikuja hivi unakuwa check. Ukikuja hivi unakuwa check. And ilikuwa ngumu. So we had to get an ambulance again ndio tuweze kutravel kwenda home.
So kutoka Bagati you went back home in an ambulance.
It was the only way to go home. You see,
then even before you go to life after hiyo yote, your COVID case number, do you remember? But
I remember very well that it was among the first 20 cases. Maybe 17, 16 or thereabout.
That must have been so scary because hizo kesi za kwanza watu walikuwa wanaziogopa. Yaani unakumbuka hadi ingesikika tu kuna mtu wako na COVID area yenyu, vile kwanza alikuwa anakuja kuchukuliwa tu peke yake, hata nyinyi neighbors mnaweza ogopa. Then you remember the story of tracking. Sijui amekuwa wapi, amehusiana na nani, ameenda duka gani, ameenda wapi?
Ilikuwa hivyo. Ulikuwa na receive calls from the government, wanakuambia ukiwa kwa matatu ulikuwa umekaa na nani, ulikuwa umefanya nini. And now everyone in Kakamega was so scared. Kakamega County anasema COVID ishatufikia sisi jamani. Wakati wetu umefika. And it was very tough. Na walikuwa na track. Gava ilijaribu ku make efforts. I must love them for that. I just don't know how efficient that was. Lakini kila mtu waliongea na yeye, they could take the contacts na wana call. But it's partly because it was the earliest cases. Unajua kama wewe ni mtu mmoja, they have enough resources to do that. But wakati cases zilikuja zikakuwa mingi, maybe wakalegeza kidogo. But there was a lot of tracking na wakapata watu na just following up. Yeah.
Okay, that is interesting. So, Omukoko, I want you to tell me now life after that. Now when you went back home.
Yes.
Inasemaje sasa yani usharudi home na wewe unajua kabisa umepona. The neighbors na the villagers na penye ulikuwa unaenda bado watu walikuwa suspicious with you?
So the reaction was always different, very different. Of course, when nimekwambia I had to use an ambulance to go back home. But sasa kufika home, nimefikishwa home kwenyewe na ambulance. Everyone in the village anashangaa ambulance imekuja kufanya nini hapa hivi? Imeleta nini hapa? Imeleta huyu jamaa kwa aje? And then wakati nashuka hivi, I see some watu walikuwa wanapita kwa njia yenye ilikuwa ambulance ilikuwa imesimama. And some of them will take an about turn. Hawataki tu kupita hapo hivyo. Which is also very understandable. And so I get home, my family was very happy to embrace me. Kuja, they're moving close to just welcome me back home. But now I've been advised kwamba nikae in self-isolation for a while before niweze kuinteract na watu. So I had to ward them off, kuambia tu kwamba yes, we'll have to wait. But I really appreciate the fact that they were there for me. But for the rest of the people, natoka hivyo naendesha baiskeli yangu kidogo hapo kwa njia. Watu wananiangalia. Unajua, and sometimes I could cycle so fast. Watu wananiangalia. Mtu amepata COVID anaendesha baiskeli hivi. Hii kitu si kweli. Kitu si kweli. Because people thought. And that's why at time nilikuwa kwa hospitali. Watu walikuwa wanakutumia messages. Watu wengi wanakwambia pole, it's okay. Ni kama mtu anafikiria wewe you're counting days. And I really appreciate those messages. But the way in which ilikuwa zinakuja kuna ni kama is it that because it was one of the earliest cases and people, and of course they were meaning well, lakini watu walikuwa wameamini kweli this is a disease yenye ukipata wewe uko na chance kubwa sana ya
wewe unaenda
so ilikuwa hivyo. So after COVID nilikuja nikakuwa very famous somehow because nilikuwa nimeongea kwa TV but watu usahau haraka. So unaweza kutana na mtu anakuangalia, huyu nilimuona nilimwona. And they may not know alikuona wapi, but aside from that, kuja ikakuwa famous sana. Mtu anapita kwa barabara kwa njia hapo kwenye anasema hapo ni kwa ule kijana alipata COVID.
Oh no.
Hapo ni kwa ule kijana alipata COVID. But yeah, so the reactions zilikuwa different depending on what people believe. Watu wao kuamini kuna COVID wanakuja wanakuambia, "Hey, ulipewa pesa ngapi na gava kuambia watu kuna COVID?"
Exactly. Because there are so many people. Unajua sasa Omukoko, even the other part of it ni that there are so many people after sasa hizo scandals za serikali zilianza kutokea. Siko na kumbuka hizo scandal vizuri. Mara COVID money, COVID billionaire. Wakaanza kujiuliza, hii COVID iko true kweli? Alafu sasa baadaye kuna watu walikuwa wanakuja wanashikwa from their places. Alafu wafanye ile tracing walikuwa wanafanya kitambo. So unapata wamechukua bwana mtu ama wamechukua bibi ya mtu ama niseme mtu wa mtu. Then family mzima nayo imewachwa. So tunajiuliza, si tracing ilikuwa inafanyika kitambo, ukichukuliwa wanachukua family members ama nini? So I think there's so many people started suspecting. So there are instances where watu walianza kushuku ulipewa pesa.
Watu walikuwa wanashuku ulipewa pesa, wanashangaa wewe ulipewa pesa ngapi na gava? Because a lot of things did not make sense. Gava inasema we spent 1 million shillings per patient. Mimi nilikuwa naangalia 1 million na shangaa, where is this 1 million? Si mnipatie tu hata niende nijifungie mahali. Mwache kushughulika na mimi. Just give me 1 million.
Ilikuwa inaitwa hiyo kitu? Ilikuwa inaitwa hiyo self quarantine.
Self quarantine. Mimi nilikuwa nasema mimi nipatie 1 million. Hata kama ni kuishi Mount Kenya kwa on top hapo juu penye hakuna mtu anafika niende niishi huko hiyo. So I did not know. And many people walikuwa wanashangaa sasa hii pesa yenye gava inasema we are giving people 1 million shillings. Hii pesa inaenda wapi? And that is part of the reasons why watu walikuwa wanashangaa. And if anything, hata familia yangu, the government was supposed, or ilisema wakae self-isolation and then the government will support the family. But hakuna vitu mob walifanya. There is very little they did. Walinunua hii pipa ya maji. Walinunua pipa ya maji, wakasema mjaze maji hapo and then sasa you don't have to go looking for water and stuff. But I'm thankful because kuna not pastor but father wa Catholic Church mwenye was very supportive to the family. Yeye ndio alikuwa anasaidia familia sana. Alikuwa anakuja analeta chakula, anaweka hapo kwa gate na anasema anasalamia watu nyumbani from a distance of course, just trying to make sure that pia ana keep safe. But hiyo ilisaidia sana.
Amazing. Before tuendelee Omukoko, kuna jamaa hapa inaona na dial in, acha tusikie nasema aje. John Shambox, karibu sana bro.
Asante. Niaje Opondo, Omukoko?
Jambo Mr. Don.
Sasa naona wewe ni mzee wangu wa county. Pia mimi nilikuwa Kakamega.
I see.
So venye tu nasema Kakamega kulikuwa na a lot of stigmatization. Unaona sasa kama like Waluya, si unajua venye matanga huwa inakuwa mtu akikufa watu wanakuja matanga. Lakini wakati COVID ilifanyika unapata mtu amekufa watu hata so unapata kwanza especially kama ni mtu mwenye hata hawezi afford vitu za postmortem nini watu wana automatically assume ni COVID. Sasa unapata mtu amekufa kesho ashazikwa. So situation ni mbaya. Hata ukipata I was sharing with Opondo, ukipata hata somebody ametravel kutoka wacha tuseme Nairobi, Mombasa, unajua venye kwa community watu wao wanakuwa wanajua huyu anakuwa huku, huyu anakuwa huku. Sasa once watu wameanza kila mtu anauliza huyu alikuja. Sasa watu wakisikia unatoka kwa hizo hot zones, they will even go to an extent ya kukujia maaskari. Askari wanakuja kuuliza umetoka wapi, umeinteract na nani. So situation ilikuwa mbaya sana time ya COVID, especially huko in the like kwa rural area situation.
Don't even yourself you can attest that these things see story too tunapiga hapa it was true.
It was true. Sasa unapata most of the people wenye walikuwa Nairobi pengine hawaku experience. Sasa Nairobi mmekaa kwa nyumba, lakini sasa mkiwa in the village where everyone knows everyone na kila mtu anajua kitu inaendelea, situation ilikuwa mbaya sana.
Na vile kwanza watu ushago ujua mtoto wa nani anakuanga Mombasa, mtoto wa nani anakuanga Nairobi. Kwanza the word Nairobi ilikuwa hatari sana. Ukisema tunatoka Nairobi, don't you remember kwanza watu wa Nairobi ndio watu waliona wakati. Yaani kwanza walikuja wakafunga the country. Wakakuja then wakafunga metropolitan, wakakuja wakafunga Nairobi. Then watu wa Isili wakaenda wakafungiwa peke yao Isili, ati watoki Isili.
Kwanza wakati wanafunga wakati
Yeah.
wanafunga alafu unapata watu wenye they saw it coming wa Nairobi, sasa wanaenda wana travel wanaenda Ushago. Sasa hao wakishafika Ushago wakati sasa Nairobi imefungwa, sasa hao kwanza ndio walikuwa like wana go through your stigmatization juu watu wanasema wametoka Nairobi time yenye this thing iko at the peak.
So inakaa ni kama umeileta huku Ushago.
Inakaa ni kama umeileta na
hadi watu walikuwa homa ya kawaida si homa. Si ndio?
I remember hata mimi kuna wakati nimeenda kupanda matatu, nilikuwa tu na homa, sikuwa nasikia symptoms za any other symptoms za COVID. Sasa nilikuwa sijakaa kwa dirisha, I was seated this other side. Unajua Kakamega pia matatu hazikuwa zina observe vitu za social distance. The lady I was seated next to, yani aliona, unajua venye ukiwa na homa macho iko watery nini, hata mpaka she left me the seat yenye iko kando ya dirisha nisikuwe karibu na.
Wow. Okay. Interesting sana. Don't nataka tu maybe we go to backstage, nitakuleta na ukoli in wakati wako unataka kuliswali ya mwisho hapa hivi kwanza Omukoko amalize story, but please don't go away. Unaweza tu wakati maybe usongerewa backstage ama unaweza tu endelea kusikiza on the other side. Tumalize story hapa hivi. Caroline na cheki hapa hivi. Unaendelea pia hivi kuwatch pole pole Caroline. Alafu tena nani pia tuko na nani mwingine? Jack Leopalia. Jack Leopalia, wewe kwanza ningetaka sana kusikia hata story all the way from Samburu. Mambo ilikuwa namna gani bro? You can just dial in or let me know kama unataka the link. Niambie hapo hivi kwa YouTube. Just comment kama unataka link nikupatie straight away. Join tusikie mambo namna gani. Sasa Omukoko.
Yes.
How did you heal? Now sasa hiyo healing from like ama bado tu vitu ziko tu hivyo kwa village. Mkienda tu bado bomaini unaogopwa hivyo. That is like 2 years later ama 3 years later.
Yeah, I think right now watu wamekubali kwamba COVID is a story of the past.
Na wamekubali that you can ride a bicycle.
Yeah, wamekubali kwamba unaweza endesha baiskeli hata kama umekuwa na COVID and stuff like that. Of course still bado watu watakuita ule kijana wa COVID ama nini, but that doesn't matter. Hiyo haijalishi vile. But aside from that, ni just reflecting and thinking about the experience venye ilikuwa and all the troubles that people underwent just because of the experiences. Na nikagundua kwamba I suffered more from what people perceived of COVID and how people reacted to realizing that I was suffering from COVID than from the disease itself. Kwa sababu ugonjwa wenyewe hata mimi haikuni affect as per se vile, but just the perception of the people and the way they treated and responded to it ilikuwa the biggest challenge. But 2 years later, I think I'm okay, niko sawa. But surprisingly, still people, bado kuna watu wanaamini COVID never was. So, watu wanaona ni kama I was just part of a big scandal.
Yeah. It's strange, man. It is strange. Unajua mimi, okay, why I really got interested in your story. And I also have to be honest, you know. Wote tu kwa tume-experience hii kitu. Hii kitu, yani you only starting to believe it ikifikia mtu wa karibu na wewe. Sasa unajua sasa mimi nikasema wait a moment. So ni Omukoko nao ni best yangu. Let me call Omukoko saizi nisikie kwani story ni ukweli. So you know when we were talking na unaniambia bro mimi na niko sawa nini but mwili tu hivi. So unajua nikaanza kusema wow, okay kumbe. And remember even we started now saying okay can we now start even sasa kuhamasisha watu online tujue that mtu mwenye kuna COVID si ati sasa ni mtu hizi salimiwa. Sasa kishapona sijui hizifanyiwa nini, si ndio? Now maybe on your side, maybe as a Kenyan and also as a young African, looking at it, if this kind of situations were to come back again, how prepared do you think we should be?
What the future brings and how it looks like is very hard to tell, but there are always things that we can do to make sure that any situation in an emergency inakuwa handled better. First of all, mimi naona the media, social media panic, that to me worsened everything about COVID. So kama kunaweza kuwa na trusted sources of information, seme kama government inakuwa very clear about its communication na inaambia watu this is what we are doing, so that kunakuwa na hiyo kunakuwa na oneness in the way that the information is conveyed. So si ati watu wanasikia huku hivi na wanasikia huku the other side. But aside from that, the other thing that can be done is just involve the people. Ukianza tu kukuja kuambia watu now, kesho, leo tunafanya hivi, leo tunafanya hivi, and you just don't know about the experiences that people have. Ujui watu watareact aje. Ni kama you're just deciding without the people. That to me ina cause a lot of trouble. Ndio maana ina cause that confusion, that panic, that thing. And then once you take some measures, you also have to think about the people being affected by these measures. Watu walikuwa very hesitant to comply with government instructions because government inakwambia okay, leo hutaenda nje after 7 p.m. Wewe unajua your business opens at 7 p.m. Hapo hivyo inamaanisha, and some people are actually feeding from hand to mouth. So huyu mtu ukimwambia hawezi enda nje from 7 p.m. what plan do you have? Atapata chakula aje? Atafanya aje? And just being clear about the roles of different institutions in this. Kusikuwe na situation where maybe ni county governments zina convey information hivi, the Ministry of Health ina convey information hivi, the police wanafanya hivi. Kukwe na very clear instructions. What is the role of the police in this? What is the role of the Ministry of Health? What is the role of the president? Because the president was also involved in talking about what is the role of the media in such situation. I think once we have clarity in that, we are better placed to handle situations of this nature than kama everyone is all over the place. Yeah, but we try. Kenya ilifanya vizuri compared to a lot of other countries.
Perfect. There's a friend again here texting us on called My Story. That is my dear sister Chinenye Lumenze from Nigeria. If possible, you can just dial in and maybe let me know how it was, especially did it get to Nigeria or where were you? And generally, how is the general feeling there? Because now, actually, Omukoko, you can imagine the population of Nigeria. This person, either they are close to 200 million or something. Because I saw their registered voters, 95 million, 90 million people, 90 million voters. Their registered voters are more than Kenyans.
Yeah. I mean, Nigeria is a big country.
So I was just trying to imagine now, if this was to strike them, and I mean, I'm just keen to see how things were handled there. Damaris Rator, that is again another amazing friend called Teresa. Mimi anytime nilikuwa naenda hosi waniulize uko na homa na kataa hizo vitu kwa mapua na mdomo zi, yani alikuwa anasema kabisa hezi pimwa na taki kupimwa. Kimberly Sandra anasema bana naleta ile, mnakumbuka ile hashtag ya wash your hands.
Yeah.
I remember the phrase that I wanted to bring here, Omukoko. Do you remember when Mr. Kagwe told us if you treat it normally, it will deal with you abnormally?
I remember that. I
mean, those things were so scary. You're talking about the role of religion on this, the role of government, even our role as people. I'm not trying even to imagine now what role should we have played to make those who had already contracted this disease and healed better, even as citizens. If there's something that now maybe we need to tell each other as members of community that, this can happen and this is how we need to do it. Because even away from COVID, just look at generally even how we handle things. Yeah. Omukoko, you've been in cases where sometimes people say, I cannot even shake hands with somebody who has HIV. I can't do this with this. I mean, I can't do this with this. All these stories, the stigmatization, you can't even imagine the kind of trauma that we cause to these people. What would you say about this?
What I'll say about this, what I've realized over time, people are very quick to press the send button on social media. Na vitu zenye watu type social media, chances are that wakikutana na mtu live hawezi mwambia. So I think we need to be very careful with the way in which we use social media, because these are real people, these are real lives. Mtu tupa hapo comment, mtu ana make fun of stuff, and I think to me that exacerbated everything. Hiyo na iliharibu kila kitu completely. Just being aware that we are dealing with real people, real human beings. And so wakati tuna send out this information, we are not just sending it to a platform. It's very easy to feel on social media that you're just talking to a platform where we post comments, Facebook, Twitter, whatever that is. So I think that will help, but also just being human being, kuwa na utu, to think about the next person. Kujua kwamba this is just being selfless and trying to understand that this is a problem that is affecting all of us. And as soon as we have that mindset of unity, of thinking about it as a problem that is affecting all of us, I think we will incline towards working together to realize solutions to some of these problems, or to come up with solutions to this problem. So I think, to me, the way we think about problems that affect our society, if we think about it as affect mimi aje, then that becomes very difficult to bring everyone on the same page. But if we think about it as this is something that is affecting us as a people, as a country, and if we think about it that way, then I think we have every reason to collaborate and work together to find solutions.
Amazing. Amazing, Omukoko. If you're in a position of influence, what would you have done differently?
What I would have done differently ni to make sure kwamba the media is checked in any form of information that is put out there. The media got away with. We are promoting media freedom, and that is good. But that does not mean that we just allow freedoms that put other people's lives at risk. Because this is COVID. I saw it's either in coastal Kenya, kuna mtu alipigwa or something because alcohol. And so we needed to have more sessions of doctors being involved. Let's have experts on the panels. Wakienda kwa hizo media stations. Waseme, this is COVID. They share their expertise. Much as not a lot was known about COVID, but at least they knew much more than just everyday blogger mwenye anakuja anaandika chenye anafikiria kuhusu COVID. And
so,
then
Omukoko, maybe just a minute, because I see our sister here calling. Let me bring her on screen so that she can just share her idea. I'm actually just interested to know how it was in Nigeria, if it found her in Nigeria or wherever it was, and maybe also being somebody who's really dedicated to service of God. Maybe how was it taken? My sister Chinenye, welcome. How are you? Unmute yourself. You need to unmute. We cannot hear you. Okay. We cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Good evening. Hey, Omukoko. Okot, hi.
Hi, how are you? Where are you joining us from today? I know you are in our country, but from which part are you joining us today?
From Riara.
Oh, Riara here in Nairobi. So just a quick one. When the first few cases of COVID were announced in most countries in Africa, to be specific, maybe in your country, Nigeria, where were you?
Actually, I wasn't in Nigeria. I was in England then.
Oh, you were in England.
I was in England.
Were
and
you
it was so
worried for your country,
scary.
Nigeria?
And we.
Okay. Sorry, I think there's a problem with her network. Yes, go on.
Okay, I wasn't in Nigeria at the time. I was in England. But I know that it was so scary, and we didn't really understand what was happening. And you know how it was like in England. People were dying like. So we all had to be isolated. We all stayed on our own, and there were no movements on the roads. Everywhere was lonely. People were dying. We were uncertain about, the turnout of events and things like that. So we were not sure what was going to happen, until gradually people became used to it, In fact, like he mentioned, I think the way people were handled, people who had COVID were treated was even worse than the impact of the COVID itself. People wouldn't be allowed to see their loved ones, and people died without any goodbye from their loved ones. People had no contact at all whatsoever. So it was very traumatic and a very, very sad experience for so many people. And of course, some people are still suffering from the impact of COVID now. But looking at Nigeria and how it was handled, I think Nigeria really tried, given the number of the population there. They tried in managing COVID very well, I must say. And it was expected that, a place like Nigeria with the nature of the population, is highly populated, that people will be infected so much and people be dying. But I think people died more in Europe than in Africa.
Okay,
so I think that's my experience.
What I'm liking, there's a point that you just mentioned and it reminded me a lot. People were dying without even saying their goodbye to their loved ones. And I also saw cases where people were buried even without their loved ones because the government took over the whole thing.
Yeah.
But even the worst part of it, and you've also captured it so well, the part of that, the effect, how we were treating these people, or how we were treating the people who recovered, the effects. It was more even. It affected them even more than the effects of COVID itself. So thank you so much for
Initially, yes.
thank you so much for mentioning that, and I'm also looking forward one day to hosting you on our channel here. For now, thank you so
No
much for joining.
problem. You're welcome. It's
Thank
okay.
you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you so much. Omukoko, back to you. You are mentioning something on just what would have been done differently.
Yeah. So what I've done differently. So I mentioned that the media will have been very deliberate in bringing experts on board, also sharing real experiences by people who have experienced COVID, so that people can have a feel of what happened. But in that line, the media also tried. I remember they came to Baghdadi and they shared the story about what was happening in Baghdadi, and that was very bold of them. That was great. And then in terms of the using the panic or the scare technique, I think it doesn't work. The government needs to be honest with people. When you tell people that you're spending this amount of money or that this will happen, you just don't use language that creates panic and brings fear to people. I think it's much more helpful when the government is honest, when the government says things as they are, and that results in greater. The outcome becomes much greater than when you just use techniques of the kind that the government used. But finally, it's involving the people. For me, if you work with the people, if you bring the people on board, you just don't make decisions in the boardrooms and then tell the people this is what we have decided for you. I think people are more receptive to ideas when they are involved in the process. And I think that is the whole issue about democracy, bringing people on board, making sure that we are working in their best interest, but also working with them. I can't remember which government, but it's one of the governments that has been hailed as one of the best governments as far as handling COVID is of concern. And turns out that it's because they involved the people were coming up with ideas, with suggestions, and the policing was not done by people holding guns. Because you can't see the coordination between, or the correlation between guns and COVID. It was handled by the people themselves. The people said, okay, we agree to do this. If you have not done this, people are taking responsibility for each other. And to me, that is much more impactful than having a person who's holding a gun to scare people and into wearing masks and stuff like that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, brother, for that. I think this is also very, very, very interesting. And even for our sister who has joined us from Nigeria, even before we come to the last question, I see quite a number of people still joining us. Anyone who would like to call in and share one or two with us, please feel free. My dear sister Kimberly Sandra, I appreciate. Thank you so much for joining. I see you. We have a Go Youth podcast all the way from South Africa. You are free to call in, brother, so that you just tell us. I think South Africa was also one country that was really hit, and it was very interesting just to hear. But just to remind you, this is a session that will be coming to you every week, once in a week. Let me say every Friday, we'll be bringing these stories here, stories of different things. In fact, Omukoko, a friend of mine who will be coming to share with us a story on how dating was like the years before phone, before WhatsApp, before. Have you ever imagined maybe how are people meeting right now the way we're used to our phones? How are people been planning it? Before phone,
it's very interesting.
If you go in campus and let's say your class ended on Friday, maybe at 3 p.m. and you want to meet your special one, maybe on a Sunday or on a Saturday. So he was saying that the agreement was that we are meeting at GPO or at that market next to that tree on Sunday at this particular time. And now you cannot. People are very good timekeepers because you knew very well that if you don't show up at that time, it will be easy. How are people communicating, for example? How are people? Right now we're used to chatting and just checking on Omukoko, where are you? Where are you, brother? Are you doing the show or not? And blah, blah, blah. How are people doing this before Omukoko? And I think this will be a very interesting story. There'll also be another great story coming here, the story of the Rastafarian community and the belief of Haile Selassie, the Lord of Lords and King of Kings, the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. Very interesting to hear all these stories, and we'll be bringing all these people right here on the panel just to hear what they have to say. But for now, let me bring in our dear brother, Ali Malekane. Ali, welcome on board. Ali, if you can hear me, you can unmute. Okay. Fine. Let me see. Once he has fixed everything, we'll bring him on screen. So, Omukoko.
Yes.
Just as we look, actually, we're just about to wind down everything here. What happened across the country, what we saw across the world in different nations, do you think African nations, the way we responded to this situation, the urgency that we gave it, it is possible that again we can do the same to every issue that we are facing? As you think about that question, here is Ali. Ali, welcome, brother.
Good afternoon, Hela Africa, Hela Waresu, Hela Omukoko.
You're the craziest person that comes on the platform and speaks all languages at once. Ali, welcome. Oh no.
Coming from
Ali, can you disconnect and call again? Kindly. Maybe I'm sure that will even clear the network. Thank you. Just disconnect and call again. That I'm sure will clear the network for you. Yes, Omukoko, go on.
Yes, so in terms of the way the different governments and countries in Africa responded to this, there's a lot to learn, certainly. We did not have sort of a common response to COVID. Every country reacted differently. Kenya did its thing. In Tanzania, they did not even shut down the country. Everything went on as usual. But that to me speaks to a great opportunity for African countries to collaborate, to work together, and to just chart their own path. I do think that COVID was one of those rare cases where Africa had a choice to determine the path forward, because we did not have maybe a big country that has determined the way for everyone else. And so that was testing our ability to handle our own problems and our own issues. And if anything has come out of that, the fact that we managed COVID in our own different ways and were able to come out much better than the so-called experts from other parts of the world predicted. That speaks to the fact that, yes, we can take charge of our lives and determine which path is best for us.
I like that. Omukoko, and also just the creativity bit. Did you see some creativity from Africans during this time, and even just the Ubuntu spirit?
Yeah, I saw it. I saw a lot of that. I saw the way people are making masks out of everything.
Imagine, look at that.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was.
People are making masks out of everything. I saw sometimes in Nairobi here, sometimes back in Nairobi, some young carpenters who designed some very nice beds for hospitals. I also saw how Kenyans came together and people started doing fundraising to do community food programs. I don't know whether you saw that, Omukoko, and people are coming together and saying, you know what, let's take this maize flour to that church so that people would not have jobs, because people lost jobs. Companies were shut down and the airspace was shut down. And I mean, people did not have jobs. So people came together. And I think for the first time, I felt like, despite all the challenges, Africans came together to tackle this kind of situations. Ali, welcome back. Oh no, Ali, what is happening?
Thank you so much.
Oh, I can hear you now.
Yes. Go on, Ali.
Yeah, apologies, my brother. The network is very bad because of the climate. It's quite rainy and windy this side, and most of the towers are quite affected, but I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're very audible. Just tell us your name and where you're joining us from. Then maybe go to just your experience during COVID times. Then we can let you go.
Okay, good. My name is Ali. I'm joining from South Africa, from the mountains of Limpopo. All right, from my side, in terms of COVID-19, it's a killer one. COVID-19 destroyed a lot of things. But let me start on the positive side. COVID-19 have taught a lot of people good things. You know, people, they were not aware about Zoom. People, they were not aware that we can do online teaching. People, they were not aware that they can work from home just using their laptops. So COVID-19 taught people that technology is the way to go. And a lot of people, they benefited from it, especially those ones that are lazy to work. They're benefiting from that system. And even some of the students, those who don't want to go to class, that are lazy to go to class, they benefited a lot. And also, most of us, we started to learn new terminologies. We started to learn them during COVID. So we are learning a lot. Now, the worst part of COVID, we saw a lot of people, salaries have been reduced. A lot of people, most companies, they were closing. The hospitality sector, it was a terrible. Our businesses were not making money and food. The cost push inflation was going high. Food. So we also saw some of the NPOs that were also trying to assist, the likes of the Gift of the Givers. And some of those NPOs, they were trying their level best to make sure that they can also assist.
Okay. I think Omukoko, we got his point. Yes, we got his point, and I think he was also just talking on how what he saw in South Africa, people were coming together to fight and to do it. And but just to let everyone know, Ali is joining us here next week to share also his story and his struggles and everything that he has been doing across the continent here. He has also been trying to organize people, talking about what is happening in South Africa, the demonstrations, and that is the story that we'll be having here next week. I hope all of you are joining right now. You'll also be able to join us next week. But in the meantime, Omukoko, you on a point before I brought in, I don't know that you can still remember where you are.
Yeah, I can remember where I was. I was talking about just the opportunities that COVID has laid bare to the African continent. I mean, there's a great avenue for collaboration. We saw how the world reacted to COVID, and even post-COVID, when people are requiring COVID vaccines to travel and COVID certificates, or COVID vaccine certificates, or what they call the COVID passport. The world was very slow to allow African countries to travel towards to different countries. And so, again, that is something that we suffered as a continent. And it just reminds us how crucial it is for us to continue to bond together, to be united in our measures, and to speak in one voice. Because if we don't, then we are much weaker against the rest of the world in terms of just bargaining for different things to get done. But aside from that, I think COVID, all the troubles that it had, notwithstanding, has transformed our lives in many ways. And as Ali was mentioning, there are a lot of positive things that have come from it. And as a people, we just need to focus on the positive lessons that we've learned and try to implement those. And I think there's a lot that is to wish for and to hope for in the future. And the future continues to look as bright as ever for Africa. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Omukoko. Where can we find you? Where can people even follow this great wisdom that you are sharing? Because I know you also have platforms where you share your content.
Yes. I have a platform. There's a YouTube channel called The New Perspective. And so if people want to check my story as told on the channel, because that was not a panel, it was just me narrating the entire story as it was. In case they want to check that out, please let them feel free to reach out. But other than that, I'm not very, very present on social media. So, but as soon as I am, maybe I'll communicate.
Thank you. Before we let you go, Carol, Carol, you're already on the screen. We were just about to welcome you. Carol, please call back. Carol, if you can hear me, just call back, please. That would be very interesting just also to hear you, your experience, and where you're joining us from. I think it has been a very great session. What is one story you are looking forward to hear about Africans as we wait for Carol to call in?
Was it the story by Caroline, right?
Yes.
Caroline has a story. I'm very keen to just listen to that story and just remind young people that regardless of how deep the hole we come from is, regardless of how low from we come, the world is full of opportunities and our potential is always unlimited. We can always tap into it. I think to me, that is a very important story for young people who are now jobless, who are counting losses, who are counting, who have lost faith in almost everything, including education. I think that story will revive that. I'm really looking forward to it.
Asante sana. And Omukoko, also, I know you've also been following keenly what we do on our channel here. We've been telling amazing stories. What is one story that stands out for you that you ever watched and said, wow, I never knew about this, now I know about it?
The channel, in terms of the overall show has been doing a lot of things. I got to learn a lot about Nairobi, about the National Archives. I had no idea what goes on in there, what happens, and all these great stories that you continue to do. But I think for me, every new story always blows my mind and is always a great improvement of the other story. Knowing about the history of the smallest church in the world, one of the smallest churches in the world in Kenya, that is also something that I think the overall show has a way of bringing stories that no one thinks and talks about, but things that once you learn about just change the way you view the country, the perspective you hold about Kenya, and the many unique things that our country has that we may not know from all other channels that we listen to or watch.
You know, Omukoko, I've been doing some these stories, but there's one story that recently somebody challenged me to try. The story of Yesu wa Tongaren, the Jesus from Tongaren, Bungoma, and you know, of late he has even said that his security is on threat. He's now requesting the government to give him additional security because the Bungoma people, the villagers, are saying that they want to crucify him on Friday, and people are saying, if you are Jesus as you are claiming, then let us crucify you on Good Friday. So why don't you die for our sins? And people have even been going to his home and saying, Jesus, now, you know, yes, we have water. Can you turn it into tea for us? And actually, he said he turned water into tea, and people drank tea.
Yeah, and I saw the miracles he's doing. That is Jesus of Tongaren. And yeah, he's doing a lot of crazy stuff, you see. But I think he can tell the people that when the time is right, as the prophecies say, he will maybe, the Son of Man will give his life for the people and change. But yeah, Kenyans are very creative. And I mean, I marvel at it. We have every reason to smile in Kenya. You can't get bored unless you want to.
I think even now, as we come to an end of this, Omukoko, I'd just like also to drive everyone to also go to our to WordPress and check on the overall show. You know, there are those people who like watching. If you like watching, definitely keep watching on this channel, all the stories that we are doing. If you like reading, I would challenge you now to go to overall show WordPress. We have a WordPress, a blog site where we do all the stories that we've documented. But remember, a lot of stories are coming. Recently, did a story on the, what do we call it, the Galton Fence Memorial. You know this memorial. There's this statue in the city center just next to GPO here in Nairobi that everyone has been passing, and people never know. It is from that point that we measure all directions. Actually, you know, at that point, that is only the time that you can know which side of Nairobi is east, west, north, and south. And it's from that point that we measure all distances from Nairobi. So if you say Nairobi to Kisumu is 400 kilometers, you should be asking yourself, Nairobi from which part of Nairobi? Is it Nairobi from Buruburu or from Kibera or from Thika Road? Which part of Nairobi are you talking about? It is from this point that we measure all these distances. There's a story about the smallest church. Please just go and look at it. And you even tried to get what were the Italian prisoners of war doing in Kenya, yet Kenya was colonized by the British. We've done the story of Mwale Medical and Technology City in Butere, a very big, massive project, a city being done by a Kenyan. You're still wondering if Africans are doing things in their own countries. Yes, they are doing. And of course, we keep bringing all these amazing stories. In case you have any story that is of interest to you, please let me know. But in the lineup, we have the story of Lake Simbi Nyaima from Homa Bay County. People interested to know, Omukoko, how did this lake form? It has no outlet, it has no inlet, yet the water is always there. Where does this water come from? There's another story, Omukoko, very interesting from Alego. In one of the forests, there's two big feet in somewhere within the forest, and some 12 stones designed as seats. And villagers say that these things have been there ages and ages. The legends from that village believe that Jesus Christ passed there and he sat with his disciples, but it is not known where he was heading to. You know, these are now the stories that we want to keep on bringing and sharing with people. We'll also be doing the stories of all the statues. Young people ask themselves, you know, as we see in people in city center now taking the road signs marked Tom Mboya. Where are you taking Tom Mboya to? People need to know who Tom Mboya was. People need to know who Dedan Kimathi was, who Jomo Kenyatta. We are bringing all these stories. So Keep tuned on this channel, even as we keep bringing you also these live stories every Friday. Thank you so much, everyone who has joined. And Omukoko, to you, any parting shot?
Ni kuambia Wakenya kwamba tuko imara, mbele iko sawa. Tuendelee kupambana.
Tuendelee kupambana, mbele iko sawa. Thank you so much, Omukoko, and have a great stay there at Oberlin University in Ohio State. That you said is the eastern part of US or the northeast?
Yeah, northeast.
Northeast.
Yes.
Of the United States of America. Asante sana, ubaki poa, and have yourself a great day. Sisi sasa ni usiku, tunataka kukula sapa tulale.
Mkuwe na wakati mwema. Nashukuru sana.
Thank you so much, and good night.
Asante.